Okay, so hello guys, my name is Brian Abraham, and I'll be taking your campus placement 101 session today. So, about me, I'm a web developer. I was computer science student at MSIT. I was a former placement coordinator at MSIT for the previous year, that is 2019 to 2020, and I have been the technical activities coordinator at MSIT 2019-2020. Shashwat, I'm audible, right?
Yes, you are. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. So, if anyone wants to hit me up after the session or something, yeah, you can contact me uh, at these IDs. Okay. So, I'll be taking you through three sections. The first one is uh, the the placement process, as in what all happens when a company comes to MSIT, and what all process do we go through during, and what happens at each step. I'll be explaining it, and then we'll be moving on to the preparation. The preparation would be how to prepare for all of these rounds, and what all you should do, you should not do. And the third one would be uh, other important stuff that you should be knowing, as in your resume, what all should be there in your resume, what all should you do, and you should you'll get to know as we move on. Okay, so we'll begin with the process. So the first step of the process when a company comes to MSIT is they would be sending a mail to our placement cell. The placement cell would be then collecting the data from the placement cell would be collecting data from each and every student, as regarding the marks, the 10th marks, 12th marks, the marks at BTech, if any active backlogs is there, the contact details and all. So what happens is the company sets a criteria set by a company on the basis of your backlogs, your marks of your 10th, 12th, and BTech, and then based on the branch. So, so based on that data, the students are shortlisted. So generally, the minimum marks that they ask are for 10th class, it's 70%. For 12th class, it's again 70 to 75%. And then for BTech, the lowest that someone has asked is 65. So you should always keep your marks above 65%. And then regarding backlogs, it's preferred that at the time when the company is appearing for the when the company comes for the interview, it is better if you have zero active backlogs. By active backlogs is you may have had backlogs in your past, but it should have been cleared by the time that the company comes to the college. And then there is branch. Sometimes the companies come only for triple E branch, sometimes only for CSIT, sometimes only for EC, sometimes they would be excluding one of the branches. Now, there are chances that company may shortlist our list. They may shortlist the list again. Uh, Further, if they feel like that we can't accommodate so many students, so try to keep your mark, and that is done majorly by on the basis of marks. So try to keep your marks up to a certain level, so that you are not affected by that cutoff. The next thing that comes is the online test, or OLT, as companies call it. So in OLT is a 1 to 2 hour test where your aptitude, your aptitude, your logical skills, and your English is tested. So sometimes there may be additional sections to the test uh, based on the company. It depends on the company, would they be adding it or not, like data interpretation, DBMS, or anything that would be relevant to your role. Though this round seems easy, it sometimes is not, because aptitude is all about maths and logical thinking. So sometimes people will be thinking that it is way too easy, I don't have to study for it. But a lot of times it has happened that if you are good at aptitude, you have not passed the test, and those who are not good at aptitude have passed, and those who are good have not performed well in the OLTs. So it is something that you should not be so overconfident about. Then next comes the coding round. In coding round, your coding skills are tested. The test questions are basically from competitive coding side. So it's not like normal take an input, produce an output from that, not like that, or print a pattern. It's not like that. It's generally based on competitive codings that you may have seen on websites like CodeChef, Codeforces, and such places. Now, if you don't know what competitive coding is, you should know what it is, and you should start practicing. That. The questions are designed to check your knowledge, your concepts, your skills, your speed, and quick thinking. And most of the times, this particular round is conducted along with the online test. Then comes the technical interview. Technical interview is where your skills and your knowledge are extensively tested. Your skills and knowledge are extensively tested. So here the interviewer generally starts by asking what all you know, and then based on those, he will be asking you questions. So so to an extent, you have the power to control to which direction should the interview be going, and what all questions can the interviewer ask you. If you say that you like DBMS, the interviewer will start asking you questions about DBMS instead of something else. The questions that they ask in this technical round may be from your subject, from your syllabus, or for the profile that you're applying for. In coding-based tech interviews, they may go deep into your concepts of data structures, algorithms, time complexities, and all. You may be asked to solve a question during the interview again, and more questions may be asked on it. You should know about at least 2 latest technologies that are there in the market, because they want to know that you're up to date or not, because these companies they're working on these latest technologies and not what you have already learned. So you should be knowing at least something about the latest technologies that has been going on in the market. And for those students who would be applying for the non-technical interviews, they would generally be asking how would you be talking to a client, or how would you be handling data, and other relevant skills that would be based on your profile. And also sometimes what they ask is they ask puzzles to you. The puzzles may be like, it can range from anything. It can be some sort of a riddle, or some sort of problem solving, or it can be guesstimates. I'll get to that later, as in what are guesstimate questions. The next round is the HR interview. So in the HR interview, they generally ask how compatible are you with. They want to see how compatible you are with the company. They see your people skills, your personality, your communication skills, and other things. The interview will ask you questions about you as a person, as in what all do you know, what do you do in your general time, and they would present you with situations in the office culture, and what would you be doing, and how would you be what would you be doing when you're presented with that situation. So the questions are like, tell me about yourself, or where do you see yourself in 5 years, hobbies, etc. Sometimes the HR interview is conducted alongside the technical interview, making it a techno HR interview. So there will be technical questions as well as HR questions. Now, some companies conduct what is called a case study round. So in case study rounds, these are generally done by ZS Associates and Mu Sigma. In case study rounds, they will give you a lot of data. There will be bar graphs, pie charts. A lot of data will be given to you, and then you will be asked questions based on that data. So during case studies, what you should be doing is that you should not make assumptions as to. You should always stick to the data that is given to you, read those data very carefully, and then answer the questions objectively. You should not make any assumptions as in this डेटा ऐसा दे रखा है तो नॉर्मली ऐसा होता है तो हम ऐसे भी कर सकते हैं. Generally that doesn't happen. You should always stick to what is given to you and read the data carefully. Sometimes they hide the data within the data given to you. For example, you are given a demographic that in this particular field, 40% of the field is covered by this company, 20% is covered by this company, and 10% is covered by this company. So when you add all these, sometimes they don't add up to 100%, but they won't be showing you that clearly in the data. You would have to add it up and then see it. So during case studies, you will have to read the data very carefully. And then comes the group discussion round. Group discussion is not conducted very frequently at MSIT, but many of the companies some of the companies still conduct group discussions. So in group discussions, you are generally divided into a group, and then they would be giving you a topic and asking the group to discuss among yourselves as to come up with a particular solution, or just to discuss and come up with a conclusion as to what the situation is. So some tips as in for when you are in a group discussion: listen before you speak and make a note of everything that others are saying. So it will help you to make your own points. And whenever you're speaking, speak something logical. Don't be blabbering about something that doesn't make sense. And when I'm saying that listen before speaking, you should not always stay quiet too. You should make your presence known. You should show that you are also there, and you also have some points that you want to put forward. And you should not be talking so much that others don't get a chance to speak. So it is done because the interviewer would be looking for teamwork among yourselves. As in, if you are letting others lead, you're letting others speak, or how well you're coordinating with each other. Do not derive points from other candidates' points. You should come up with your own innovative or new points. And even if you're deriving points from there, then you should add something valuable to that instead of just saying, I agree with this point. So this is the general process of the interview. Does anyone have any questions up to now? You may type in the chat box. If anyone wants me to repeat anything. Okay, then I shall be moving forward with the preparation side for the how you should prepare for the interview. So the first thing would be aptitude and logic, developing your aptitude and logical skills. So as I told you, the first step when a company comes to a college is the OLT, online test, where you will be judged where your aptitude and your logical skills are tested. So aptitude, what aptitude is it's all maths. It's generally this maths what you learn at school, and the syllabus of your maths till 10th class. So for aptitude, you can learn it from a book by R.S. Agarwal. I'll be sharing the details of that book later on with you guys. So you can learn aptitudes from there. And then there's the logical thing. Logical skills cannot be developed by learning or mugging up things or learning formulas and all. logical skill would be done by practice. So what logical skills is that generally you would be given questions as in A is the relationship questions, as in A is the father of B, B is the brother of C, and so on and so forth. Then they would be asking you what is the relationship between D and E. So one would be that, and then there would be direction-based questions. So it's all based on logical, based on normal simple logic, as in what you should do in what would be the most logical solution that comes out of a particular question. So again, you may when you see the questions online, as in what kind of questions these are, you may feel confident that ये तो हो जाएगा मेरे से, बहुत ही आसान है, बट हमेशा ऐसा होता नहीं है. काफी बार ऐसा होता है कि क्या कहते हैं, the questions are very much tough and you won't be able to do it. So you would need practice because you would be forgetting all the formulas and all. So I would suggest keep that you practice regularly for aptitude and logical skills. Then the next thing that you should be working on is your English. On online platforms can you suggest any online platforms to practice aptitude? Okay, so the online platforms that would be good for you would be Interview Bits. Then there's Geek for Geeks, and then I think so there would be an online copy of the book that I was talking about, R.S. Agarwal. You can use that too. I think so the R.S. Agarwal would be the best option for you guys, because that particular book can be used to practice for any kind of exam. It's a generalized book, so not only for your college placements but for any other kind of interviews, you can use that particular book. I'll share the details with you at the end. Okay, then moving on to English. So generally, whenever you join a company, the major communication language that they use would be English. So you have to work. So they will be testing your language skills very extensively. So you should be working on your English. You should be practicing. You should try practicing it every day. You should read stuff like newspaper, books, articles, and start writing and practice writing them too. If you feel pretty confident about your fluency, you should ask someone else to evaluate you, as in how good you're speaking or how well do you speak in front of 3 to 5 people. Try to speak in English with your friends and family. They might make fun of you, but you will be learning a lot. You will be practicing and you will be learning a lot on the way. And try to keep a notebook where you would note down new words that you find and find out their meaning and their opposites, because most of the time during the test they will be asking you what is the opposite of this particular question, what is the opposite of this particular word, or what is the meaning of this, which word comes closest to this particular word. So that is there. And then they might also give you comprehensions, as in to read a whole paragraph and then answer the questions. What I would suggest you is to read the questions first and then go to the paragraph, because if you will spend your whole time reading the paragraph from top to bottom, you will be wasting a lot of time during the test. So that is one point that you should keep in mind. Then comes the coding round. So as I said, if you don't know what competitive coding is now, you should start learning. You should go to sites like CodeChef, LeetCode, InterviewBit, Codeforces, etc., where they will be presenting you with competitive coding questions, and you can practice them. They help you develop your data structures, algorithms, and help you write faster codes, and and to use standard template libraries. So what standard template libraries is like, when you are supposed to sort something, you won't be you don't have to write, you don't have to sit and write the whole insertion sort or bubble sort code. There is a simple function in C++ that most people don't know about. It's called sort. You can use it to sort any array. So these are all stored in the standard template library. So when you would be practicing these, then you would get to know as how to code faster. Now, during placement, and also I would suggest you to stick to one particular language, and that would be preferably C or C++. The reason being is that it is easier to code in C or C++, and the IDEs in which the test is conducted is nothing at all like the Turbo, Anaconda, or Eclipse, where you generally practice your coding, because they are very much unreliable IDEs. I would say where the test is conducted for the coding round. So you may be facing really issues which you don't know how to get out of. For example, in Python instead of braces, you use indentations. But some of the IDEs, they don't accept a space or a tab. You don't know exactly how much space would they consider a correct indentation. They would always be raising an error flag, as in that the indentation is not correct. So the best language that I would suggest for interviews and tests like this is C or C++. And then the topics that you should mostly focus is data structures, object-oriented programming, algorithms, dynamic programming, greedy algos. You should know about time complexities and the standard template library. Every language has a standard template library, which makes your normal coding really faster. And then comes your core subjects. Generally, when you go to a tech interview, they'll be asking you questions from your own from the syllabus that you were learning in your college. If you say that your perceived CSIT students, if you say your favorite subject is DBMS, they will be asking you about DBMS, everything about DBMS. For ECE students, they'll be asking about ECE subjects. For EEE students, they'll be asking about EEE subjects. So you should know about you should learn all those subjects which make up the base of that particular course very, very clearly. You should know about all that. And that is all about the core subjects. And then comes the puzzles. So there are some companies like Ion Trading or ZS Associates who will be asking you puzzles. So these puzzles can be riddles or problem solving. There is a particular type of questions that sometimes they ask, which is called guess estimate questions or guesstimate questions. So these questions, they don't have any right answer. So what guesstimate questions are is like, they'll be asking that how many Uber cars are there in Delhi right now. So what you have to do is you should know a general demographic of the population of Delhi, and then based on that, logically you must get to a particular answer as to so many Uber cars would be there in Delhi. Now they don't expect a correct answer from you. What they want to see in guesstimate questions is how you think and what logic are you applying to get to that particular answer. So this is all about the preparation side. Next, I would be moving on to other important things that you should know. So does anyone have any questions up to now? Okay, important core subjects for CSE branch. The important core subjects for CSE branch would be data structures, DBMS, object-oriented programming, then software engineering. Apart from these, operating system, and COA and it is COA and then MPMC2. For CS students, sometimes they may ask, as in what all hardware is used for, what hardware is used for a computer. So they might ask you for hardware too. Okay, so the next question: in interview, do they ask for no SQL questions or is it just SQL questions? It may depend. They sometimes they don't ask you about SQL at all. They would just be asking about your DBMS concepts, your asset properties, uh, synchronization, locking, and all. So, and if you say that you know SQL, then they might be asking you some queries on how, as in what could be the query for this, for selecting this particular thing. But for NoSQL, I have not seen anyone asking NoSQL database questions yet. Okay, so next question is, non-CSE students, should they know CSE subject? I would suggest that they know at least the data structures. It was included in your syllabus for a reason, that because during placement drives, companies generally ask for data structures. So learn all the basics of the data structures that was there in your syllabus, because it would be really helpful during interviews, and if possible, learn a bit of where can I get an idea of English? I mean, where can we test ourselves? Is there any online platform for that? I haven't yet any online platform for English, but I would suggest
I would like request everyone to stay on the call. He'll be joining back. I think he's joined the call now. Where your mic is mute.
Yeah, sorry, my network got disconnected. Shashwat, could you please resend those the last two questions, last 2-3 questions, or whatever
Yeah.
were there?
So someone asked. They were on the English question. They were asking whether is there any online platform for English?
Okay, so like I said, I have not yet found any online platform for English, but what I would suggest to practice for English is look for GRE or GMAT English questions. They have a really good high standard for English questions there, so you can practice English questions using those sample papers. That way you can develop English skills very well. Okay, Shashwat. Okay, can I use Java rather than C++? Yes, you can use Java rather than C++, but some people find it difficult to code in Java. That's why I was saying. Well, there is no issue in coding in Java, so that is not an issue. Okay, Shashwat.
So
What
we
are the
have
next?
another question from Aditya Kumar. He's asking how to choose which question to do for practicing DS and algo.
Which question to choose?
Yeah, like what categories you should.
What I would suggest is if you go to Geeks for Geeks and look at look at the question for dynamic programming in greedy algorithms. There is a separate section for that. So the questions given there is made of the questions given there is formed in such a way that they teach you how to use standard template libraries. They teach you how to use data structures in different ways and all. So Geeks4Geeks has a good explanatory way. And then if you are a beginner and you want to learn competitive coding, then I would suggest you go to CodeChef. There in the problem section, the problems are divided by difficulty level. So if you go through each of the questions, at least 10 to 20 questions in each section, you will get to know what kind of level questions are asked. But generally, as compared to CodeChef, the questions that asked in the interviews are from easy to medium level. They don't go beyond that. So you can learn there. You can match with what kind of questions are there, and the questions that you have seen in Geeks4Geeks, you can match those two questions, the questions from both sides, and then you would get to know that you could have used this particular data structure for the question. And also solutions are available at CodeChef, where you can see that people would have solved the questions at 2 to 3 lines using standard template libraries or using the correct data structure for that particular question. So if you look at the answers there, you can get a pretty good idea as to how to apply data structures and greedy or dynamic algorithms there. Okay, question by Vivek Gaur. Is there any specific thing we need to do in order to target a good HFT firm? I don't know what HFT is. Can somebody tell me?
I think it's high frequency trading. Maybe.
Like companies. Okay, the companies oriented to ask OS more. Okay. Like Tower Research and all. The thing is that you won't be able to target such the thing is that when the companies come to our college, let me explain the procedure to you. When a company comes to our college, they would be sending their profile as well as the criteria for the students. So in that profile, they will be explaining as what kind of work that they do, whether it is software, hardware, or tower research or whatever. So they will explain there, and it is not like that you can target a particular firm. The firm would be targeting you. It happens the other way. So what you can do is keep up good marks and keep your relevant skills up to the mark. That is how you can be up in ranks, so that these particular firms can note you, and then during the interview is a point where you can impress them. So that is the way to do that. Otherwise, what you can do is you can go to off-campus placement drives, where you find that this particular firm is doing what I like, so you can go there. I'll be talking about that more later. I have another section left, so I'll be talking about off-campus placements there. Okay. When does this placement season start, and what is the total duration of the placement drive at our college? Okay. So the placement season starts generally starts in August, but one or two companies such as Infosys may start their process early on, for like May or April, because they have a special format called InfiTQ, Hack with Infi, along with the normal interview procedure. So they would conduct these are sort of competition like rounds. So they would be conducting these in June, July itself. So they are offering you actually three ways to get into Infosys. So all those things may start in June, July, or it can start in April too. And then how long the duration for each company, it would take at least 1 or 2. The duration is 1 or 2 weeks. They would be spreading their process. It may even be completed in two days too. And for as in how many companies come in, as in if you're asking for the duration, as in how long the placement season goes on, it goes on the whole 4th year. The companies can come at any time. Even now, though we are about to end our BTech, we have still requirements coming to us that there are openings for 2020 batch. So the process can go on till as long as they want. Okay, next question. When should we start competitive coding? Means the right time. Any time is right time to start competitive coding. If you're in first year, you want to learn coding, then there is no right time to start competitive coding. If you want to learn coding, you should start right away. But if you start it's like the companies coming in August and you want to start coding in July, then that is not the right time. You should start at as early as possible for competitive coding. Okay, can you tell more about internships? Internships, I'll be getting to internships later in the next section. Is there any other question? Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so next comes the other important things. Okay, marks and backlogs. Yeah, I'll be coming to pool campuses too. Okay, so I have a question for you guys. How many of you think that your marks and backlogs will not be affecting your placement, your placements? Just a rough idea. Give me a rough idea. You can switch on your mics or you can type in the chat box itself. How many of you people think that? Okay, Shashwat says them. Okay. Okay. No, sir, skill is important. Okay. Okay, let me. Okay, there's more. It will not be affecting. Okay. If you remember, the very first step that happens when a company comes to a college is they would be sending a criteria, as in what kind of students they are expecting. So that criteria is based on your branch, your 10th, 12th, and BTech marks, backlogs, and I think I've said one more point. 10, 12, BTech. Okay, branch. That's it. So what happens is most of the companies they have a cutoff of 70 to 75%. So if you are not if your marks are not up to that level, you won't be able to sit for the companies. So because the placement cell would be shortlisting based on that criteria, and you won't be able to sit in your companies, even though you have skill, you won't be able to sit for those companies. And sometimes the criteria for company also go as up to 80% too. And based on backlogs is the most crucial factor that happens. There would be students who would have one backlog, and because of that one backlog, they won't be able to sit in many of the companies. Even Infosys requires 0 backlogs, and Infosys is the biggest is a mass recruiter that takes most of the students from MSIT. So the one thing I would say to you is keep up your marks up to above 75%, and try to clear up all your backlogs before 7th semester. I would say even before 7th semester, you should clear your backlogs. because it will be affecting your placements very much. Sometimes the companies ask for GPA, but they never ask for credit percentage. They will be only asking for either normal percentage marks or CGPA. They will not be asking credit percentage. It happens in MSI, but not in MSIT. I'll get to Adobe for girls. I'll get to that in some of the next few topics. Okay. Next comes dress code. Dress code is very much important in the interview process. The interviewer makes his first impression based on how you dress and how you are entering into the interview room. So what you should do is you should always wear formals. Wear a light colored shirt, either white, blue, pink, or light purple. It should not be too bright or too dark. Comb your hair properly. Cut your hair properly. If you have long hair, tie it up properly. It should not look like you just got up from your home and then you came for the interview. But wear proper dress. And if boys, you want to keep your beard, trim it properly, or maintain it properly, so that it should not look rough. It should look good. If you're keeping a beard, the beard should look good on you. Okay. Is it still an important? Is the dress code still an important factor during online placement process? Okay, so if the placement process is online, during tests and all, you can wear your normal clothes. But in any kind of interview, whether it be offline in face-to-face or on Skype or anything, you should still wear a formal shirt. It makes a mark on the interviewer, as in it shows a level of professionalism when you're wearing formal clothes to any kind of an interview. Okay. Will there be any effect on placement if someone got grace marks in one of the subject? No. If you have passed, you have passed. They won't. It won't be affecting anything. They won't be looking carefully at your marks, as in where you have got grace marks, and they won't be doing that. Okay, a student can appear in how many companies? Is there any restrictions? There is no restriction on how many companies you can appear, but there is a restriction that if you have got a package, then you won't be able to sit in a company who is offering lesser package. For example, you got into ZS. ZS offers 8.59 lakh package, but ZS is a consultancy company. You want to do development. For example, Wingify is a development based. Wingify recruits for development, and you want to do development instead of consultancy, but you already got placed in ZS. Our placement cell won't be allowing you to sit for the Wingify process because you have got a higher package than Wingify, because Wingify offers 8.5, while ZS offers 8.5 to 9. Okay. What all companies with double-digit CTC come on campus, and what is the month they generally come in? Okay, so double-digit CTC, one would be ION. ION comes, ION, I think so this year ION would be coming in September. Generally, they come in August itself, but this time they are coming in September. So that's there. And then other companies, there are Jaro Education. Jaro Education is there. Then there's Byju's. So these companies, they can come up anytime, because Byju's comes in your eighth semester. Byju's comes in 8th semester, and then Jaro came in our 7th semester itself. So there is no fixed time as in when they're coming. Yeah, Rakshit has said ION is coming for 1st September. Byju's, this year Byju's came for marketing and sales. But for the previous year, that is the batch of 2019, there were development recruits too. I have some seniors who are recruited as developers for Byju's. So that's I think the questions are done here. And I think so we have covered the dress code section. Yeah. Generally, if it's an offline interview, generally students don't focus on your shoes. Wear a formal shoe, not a sports shoe. It looks really bad when you're wearing a sports shoe on with formals. So wear a proper formal shoes and polish them. It's even a saying in military that a man maintains himself as well as he maintains his shoes. So polish your shoes and keep them clean. Okay. Now next, coming to internships. What I would say, before that, there's a question: what are the common mistakes when it comes to dress code? What should we avoid? You should avoid very colorful shirts. It should be of a single color. Avoid checks or printed shirts. It should be plain, and wear light colored shirts. It should not be too bright, or restrict to these colors that I said, that is white, blue, pink, or light purple. Stay in these colors, so you will be safe. Do companies bond for particular duration? Yes, there are some companies which would be applying a bond. And when does joining letter comes? Okay, there are companies who apply bonds on students. It may range from 1 year to 2 years generally. But there's a company called Musigma, which is a data science company, which has a bond for 3 years, which they are now increasing to 4 years from starting this year. So if you want to jump jobs, or if you wish to take experience for 1 or 2 years and then move for further studies, I would suggest you think about the bond. Think about the bond too, because if you want to get out of the bond, then you will have to pay some amount back to the company. And as for joining letters can come at any time. That depends on the company. For example, Wingify sends joining letters after exams have been completed. ION sent the joining letters in January itself. ZS sent the joining letters after 1 month of recruitment, so it can come at any time. Does Infosys have a coding round? No, Infosys does not take a coding round, but in the interview, they may ask coding questions. When did Google Amazon Drive take place, and what were the prerequisites? Google came in October, and Amazon was an off-campus drive. So it also happened in October, September. Between October or September, it was an off-campus drive. Their prerequisites were normal, 60 to 75%, and 0 backlogs. That was a normal prerequisite. They didn't ask for anything else. Are there any restrictions for third-year placements as compared to fourth-year placements? I did not understand that question. Generally, third-year students are not made to sit for placements. They may be in internship drives, but the placement drives are not conducted for third years. Is it possible that we got selected in a company, but then we'll start our working period after the end of degree? Yeah, most of the times it happens that sometimes you may be asked to join in January itself during your college. During the 8th semester, they may ask to join the office, and sometimes they would be asking you to join after the college itself. Now, if they ask you to join in January, college, they may ask NOC from college. College won't be providing you an NOC, so you will have to manage that particular point somehow on your own, because college won't be helping you with that particular section. Okay, which companies except Infosys and ZS don't have a coding round? that depends on the company. There are various companies. Actually, I also don't remember what all companies. Polestar does not conduct a coding round. There are. I don't actually remember the what all companies don't ask for a coding round. Do you have to learn Python, machine learning, artificial intelligence, or C, DS, algo, competitive coding is enough? C, DS, algo, competitive coding is enough if you want to get into a development profile. Python, machine learning, artificial intelligence, that's all on the plus side. I'm talking about MSIT itself. For MSIT only, in MSIT generally when the companies come, they are only expecting C, C++, DS, algo, or competitive coding. They're not expecting so much of a Python, machine learning, or artificial intelligence, because sometimes the companies train you in these particular technologies, or they would be giving you some time to learn these technologies. But learning these technologies would be a plus side for you. This Q&A is too long. Please do. Okay, fine. Some students are asking the Q&A is going on for too long. Okay, we'll do the Q&A at the end. Type up all your questions as you want in the chat box. I'll be answering all of them later. Okay. Okay, so let's continue. Internship and training. Okay, what I suggest is do at least one internship or training during your college. It helps you gain experience as well as get certification, a professional certification that you have done some professional work in this particular field or on this particular project. The knowledge that you gain during these internships, you can use that particular knowledge in your interviews too, where you can tell the interviewer that you have done work in this particular field and you have done all these kinds of work. So that gives you a plus point during an interview, because then you would also know what kind of documentation do you have to go through during a project, and how testing is done, how a project is maintained. You would be able to know all of those things. So for training, there are multiple companies come to a college for promotions and all for training. I would suggest, if you want to join a particular company only for training, such as OSA Hub or SetPower or anything else, who come to a college for promotions and all. So look at the reviews for that company from your seniors, or look at it online, because sometimes these companies which provide these trainings are not so good. So you should check their reviews. And if you're doing an internship, internship would be the better option than training, because at internship you get to do proper work and work on live projects rather than making projects on your own. So that's there. For internships, Internshala has a wide range of options for you, so you can go and look at Internshala. I would suggest, don't count campus ambassadors and those things as your internship experience, because that is not an internship. That is just a way for you to make money. It does not count in your professional way, count in your professional side as to help build your profile or help you in your career. So it may boost up your confidence at some level, but it does not help you in your career. So I would suggest do internship in the field that you like, such as web development or machine learning, or if possible do if you're not getting internships in these, then I'd suggest you go and do some sort of summer training or anything, but don't do internships such as campus ambassadors or some promotional things. Okay, sorry for that, guys. All right, then that's there for internship. Then next is resume. So when you're making your resume, keep your resume simple, clean, and readable. It should not be too colorful, or the things should not be made too hopscotch to that the other person is not able to read it. Keep it simple. All your details should be segregated properly. The interviewer should be able to find what he wants easily. At one look, he should be able to know what is where, and he can get to know what he wants from you, not the all the unwanted things. Your resume should be restrict your resume into one page, so that the interviewer can spend more time interviewing you instead of reading your resume, which looks like a thesis. Instead of that, restrict it into a one page. Your resume should normally contain your contact details, your education, as in school and college, then your internships, training experience, what all experience that you have. Mention at least 2 to 3 projects in there. Then what all skills that you have. If you have any certifications, mention them. If you have few, you may give some description with that too. But if you have a lot of certifications, I would suggest just write the name of the certification. Don't go on explaining that. Then what all achievements that you have. Then what are the extracurricular activities that you have been present in during your college, and what all hobbies that you have. Your resume may not be limited to these topics, but these topics are something which should be there in your resume and can help you. Okay, the next thing is for any kind of interview, you should make an interview kit or a portfolio of yours. So the portfolio, so your interview kit must contain your resume, your certifications, your mark sheets, your letter of recommendations, your internship or training certificates, some passport size photographs. You should keep some passport size photographs with you at all times, and any other relevant thing that you feel like you should that you should be carrying. Keep that with you, and you should keep one set of photocopy of each document in that particular kit. And if anyone asks you for those documents, submit the photocopies and not the originals. Even if you're giving those documents for someone to verify, stay there, take it back, and then only move forward. You should not lose these original documents, because you yourself know that replacing these original documents is very hard. For example, if your 10th certificate, 10th mark sheet is gone, then it's a very long, hefty process to get the certificate back. So keep those original documents safe, and you should always take it back if you're giving it to someone else. Okay, next comes the off-campus drives. If you are not able to find a job which suits you in the college, you will be able to find them in off-campus or pool placement drives happening in other colleges or locations. There are sometimes pool placements happening in main campus. Sometimes they are happening in Agrasen, BVP, DTU. There are a lot of pool placements happening, and sometimes the information about these pool placements you may receive through the placement cell of a college itself. Oberoi sir would be looking at all kinds of options and looking for off-campus drives too, and he would be sending those mails to students too. Apart from that, you should keep in touch with students of other colleges and see if there are some pool placements or off-campus placements that are going on in their particular college, or that they know of. So you will get to know about these. For big companies such as Amazon, TCS, all these, our placement cell will be sending the mails. Then another way to get placements would be getting a PPO during an internship. Sometimes where you're doing an internship, they like your work so much that they offer you a pre-placement offer that after your college you can come and join them permanently working there. So if you're doing an internship, look out for that particular opportunity, and try to get a PPO. It would always be nice. And if all else fails, LinkedIn is there. LinkedIn is a great place to find jobs. uh, if you use it properly and extensively, you will be able to find a great job through LinkedIn. Okay, next comes the attitude that you should be presenting during an interview or placement process. During an interview, put your best face. Put on your best face. Answer all the questions with confidence and keep a smile on your face. Don't show arrogance or get into a fight with anyone at the venue. Treat everyone, your peers, the staff, everyone with respect, because if an interviewer is even just passing from there, he will be noting all that, and by looking at your face, he has your resume. Your resume would generally be attached with a photograph, so he will be looking at your face and then making judgments on that. So be polite, respect everyone, keep a smile on your face. uh, don't get disheartened at any point. Even if you fail, don't get disheartened. Things will open up some way or the other. And then never lie on your application or during an interview. It is very easy to verify whether you have lied or whether you have told the truth. So never lie, and if you're lying, don't get caught. So, and because if you get caught, you may be losing out on a very good opportunity. For example, Ion Trading conducts a one day long process where they just judge your personality. They would be judging your personality. They have prepared the process in such a way so that they would know what kind of a person you are. Are you good at working with teams, or how would you be interacting with clients? Even though you're a software developer, they would still look at uh, how you would be talking to clients, and what are you asking the right questions or not. So during Ion, they say don't show your MBA learnings during that particular process. They want to know the real you, because you may able to fake it during the interviews, but when you're actually going to work there and they don't like your attitude, you will be fired. So Ion has a tough policy in that particular way. So don't fake your personality and don't lie. Then next comes, make your choices clear. You should know beforehand, as in what kind of profile you want to go in. You want to go into non-tech, you want to go to sales, client servicing, business intelligence, coding, machine learning, web development. You should make up your mind, but you should not be too stubborn that I only want to go into this profile itself. Because what happens is, when you are aiming for a particular company and you fail in that company, then you won't be having a good backup. So it's not like कि मेरे को सिर्फ यही चाहिए, इसके अलावा मैं कहीं नहीं जाऊंगा. Look at all your options, see what all you are compatible with, see the opportunities where you feel like, okay, this is something I can do. I'll keep it as a backup, but I'm aiming for something else, and I'm waiting for that particular thing. But it is better to have a plan B. If all else fails, you have a plan B, and then you can work for some time in that company and then shift to a particular company or a profile where doing what you like. And then at the end, it's all about luck. So most of the times, if you get into a company or you don't get into a company, it's sometimes based on your luck. For example, I was very much unlucky for the major 2 months of the placement drive. I went on for Ion. I got rejected in the last round, the personality validate. I got rejected there. I got rejected from ZS from ZS in the last round. So I was very much broken down कि मेरा अब कुछ हो नहीं सकता. And the day that the Wingify process happened, I was like कि मेरे को फर्क नहीं पड़ रहा कि क्या होगा. But that day proved out to be very much lucky for me, and I got that job. Same thing happened with my another friend Ankush Garg, which most of you would know. What happened with Ankush Garg was he was not even able to pass the OLT for major part of the first half. So the only two companies where he cleared the OLT was, one was Infosys, the other was Ion, and he got through both of the companies and he got placed in Ion. And then luck played another role, and now he's going to Zeta, which is offering him even better package. So it's all about luck. So never lose hope. One day you would be lucky, other day you won't be lucky, but never lose hope, and you will find a job in some way or the other. So that's it. Thank you. Now you may ask any questions that you want. Okay, so there are some questions here. Is online course certificate play an important role in placement? I would say online course certificate do not play such an important role, because see, the point is that when these the online certificates through Coursera and all, they are sort of like, हाँ बस जल्दी जल्दी करो, देख लिया कर लिया. You are not getting such a great experience in working with projects or something during that online certification process. So their value, they don't provide you with, they don't have such a great value during your placement drives or anything. But it is so that's there. Then the only advantage of getting a online course certificate is that you're paying for that certificate, so you have some sort of encouragement to learn that technology. So the only course certification, the only value addition that the online course certificate plays is that you are learning a new technology. Apart from that, there is no other advantage for that. Then comes, is competitive programming enough for campus placements, or we have to do some deep development like web and Android? It is not necessary, but sometimes when a company is working on some specific field, then they might be expecting some knowledge of that from you. For example, during Wingify, they asked me, since I knew web development, they asked a lot from me about web development. So it depends on the company. And if you like something, I would suggest you should know about some sort of development, web development, Android development, or machine learning and stuff. You should know something about that, because it teaches you how a project is done, how a workflow is maintained. So I would suggest, apart from competitive programming, some sort of development you should know at least one kind of a development, so you know how a project works. Can you tell us more about the internship which we can get through LinkedIn? It's like, basically, you should, what happens in LinkedIn is you should make connections to your seniors, find connections as in, look at who all seniors went to your college, and make a connection, and put up your resume on your LinkedIn profile, and ask them to share it if there is some sort of an internship going on in that particular company that you can get. Or LinkedIn also has LinkedIn has a feature where you can find internships. It itself has a feature in find job section. There is an option that you are looking for internships, so it can help you find internships too. Okay, next comes Adobe for Girls. Adobe for Girls is a tricky thing. So what it is like, there is a company called CoCubes. You might have heard of CoCubes, AMCAT, and all. So these companies conduct tests, and they conduct practice tests and a real test where they give you a particular score. So based on those scores, these companies invite some other companies to our college, that these are the scores of the students here, and based on these students can apply for, these students look good for your company, so you can go to this particular college and conduct a placement drive. So Adobe comes through CoCubes, and it comes only for girls, and the package is something around 30 to 40 lakhs per annum. So that so it is through CoCubes. Again, CoCubes conducts a long test. It conducts tests on your aptitude, logical, English, coding, your core subjects, everything. CoCubes does a complete package test. Even it checks even your personality, and then based on that, it gives you a score. So and then after that, Adobe again takes a test. So that is for the 30 to 40 lakhs package. Then there's a smaller package called something called She Codes for Adobe. She Codes, it's again for girls. It's of a smaller package, approximately 23 to 21 lakhs per annum. That is also done, I think, through CoCubes only. The placement cell will be informing you when these particular companies come. Okay, sorry, my laptop was shutting down, so I had to connect it to a charger. Okay, please don't call me sir. वो भैया बुला लो, Brian बुला लो, sir मत बुलाना please. Okay, if someone is certified from IBM or Intel or Udacity, does it make any difference? Actually, I have not yet seen someone being certified from IBM or Intel, but it may, if it's based on hardware companies, it may make an impression. Impression as in, if you're certified from these particular companies like IBM or Intel, then you would be knowing some sort of then you would be having some sort of a good experience or knowledge there. So it may help in hardware. Udacity, I don't think so. Udacity का उतना फर्क पड़ेगा. Okay, can triple E students in most placements? ट्रिपल ई वालों के साथ सबसे बुरा होता है, क्योंकि काफी सारी कंपनीज हैं जो कि ट्रिपल ई वालों को अलाउ करती नहीं है. फॉर एग्जांपल, आयन डजंट अलाउ ट्रिपल ई स्टूडेंट्स, but ZS allows. So but sometimes it also happens that there are companies coming for triple E too, and sometimes the companies are open for all, so anyone can sit, like ZS. So, and for Wingify asks for two particular shortlisting. Wingify asks one for students from CSIT who are CSIT with normal marks, and then they ask for another list where there are the names of students who are not good at those who don't fit the criteria but are good at coding. So there, any student who doesn't have the marks or is from ECE or Triple E can put their name for Wingify. So there are some companies who give very good opportunities for Triple E students, but there are many good companies which I don't they won't be asking for Triple E, but there are more companies who are coming for specifically for Triple E students. So it's हाँ थोड़ा बहुत होता ही है. Okay, next, should I write about a course in resume if I am not so good at it, like technology? Write about it if you know at least the basics of that particular thing. For example, if you write that you know Java, and if you know Java very well, and then you're sitting for an Ion drive, the developers at Ion are too good at Java, so they will be asking you the ins and outs and everything about that. So you should know what you're writing. For example, if you're writing Java and you don't know advanced stuff, just write basic. if you don't know much, just write basic in front of that, but you should also know the base of that particular technology. It's not like कि तुम्हें कुछ ही नहीं आता तब भी तुमने लिखा हुआ है, ये ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए. If I mention machine learning as a skill in my bachelor's, will they consider me as an ML developer? I would suggest if you write machine learning, ML developer, they won't be considering you as an ML developer. They would be considering you just as an another guy who knows machine learning. They won't be considering you as ML developer. And then क्या कहते हैं, अगर तुम प्रोजेक्ट्स बनाओगे, मशीन लर्निंग पे प्रोजेक्ट्स वगैरह बना के दिखाओगे, सो देन दे माइट कंसिडर यू एन एमएल डेवलपर. बट अगर तुमने सिर्फ एमएल मशीन लर्निंग लिखा है और कुछ प्रोजेक्ट्स नहीं दिखाए, यू आर नथिंग टू बैक इट अप, then they won't be considering you an ML developer. They would be considering just that you know the basics of ML. For example, in CSE, in 8th sem, there is a subject called machine learning. So through that, also you can be gaining knowledge. But then you're not a machine learning developer because you have not implemented that knowledge somewhere. So if you want to be called a ML developer, you should have done some projects. Okay, so any other questions or anything?
I think we are past our time right now, so I'll just like to thank you for for today's session. And okay, I think there is still one doubt.
How to go about projects? How to go about projects would be if you're doing an internship or a training, they would be talking about projects there. And then if you're doing a normal project, then what I suggest is you look around, as in your college or at your home, and look at something that lacks and you're like ये चीज की कमी है, इसको मैं ठीक कर सकता हूँ या कर सकती हूँ यूजिंग मेकिंग दिस काइंड ऑफ प्रोजेक्ट, तो वैसे बना सकते हो. और मेजर प्रोजेक्ट और माइनर प्रोजेक्ट्स के लिए that's a little bit tough process. So so for major projects, they require you to write a research paper on your project. So you should be making something innovative. तो उसके लिए करना ये कि तुम्हें और रिसर्च पेपर्स पढ़ने पड़ेंगे. वो रिसर्च पेपर्स पढ़ के तुम्हें एक आइडिया मिल जाएगा कि क्या कहते हैं, ये पर्टिकुलर टेक्नोलॉजी अभी चल रही है, उसके बारे में रिसर्च पेपर्स पढ़ो. फिर उस पर बेस या तो उसको इम्प्रूव करते हुए, या फिर वो जो ड्रॉबैक्स बता रहे हैं उन ड्रॉबैक्स को ठीक करते हुए कुछ बना लो, या फिर कोई एक ऐसा प्रोजेक्ट बनाओ जो कि बिल्कुल ही नया, बिल्कुल ही इनोवेटिव हो. तो मेजर माइनर प्रोजेक्ट्स में ऐसी चीज़ें काम आती हैं. एंड डोंट मेक क्या कहते हैं सोशल मीडिया एप्स और समथिंग लाइक दैट फॉर मेजर माइनर प्रोजेक्ट्स. टीचर्स को अच्छा नहीं लगता वो जब तुम ये पिच भी करते हो, बिकॉज मेजर माइनर प्रोजेक्ट्स तुम्हें कॉलेज में पिच करना होता है, फिर वो टीचर्स जब अप्रूव करते हैं उसके बाद ही तुम उस पर काम करना शुरू कर सकते हो. तो वो वैसे है. Do they ask technical questions in Infosys interview from EEE students? Yes, they do ask. They would be asking data structure questions too, as well as your core EEE subjects questions too. And they would be asking you a question. You're a EEE student. Why do you want to join an IT company? So prepare an answer for that question too. ये सवाल काफ़ी लोगों से पूछा गया था. तो थोड़ा डेटा स्ट्रक्चर्स पढ़ लेना और अपने ट्रिपल ए के सब्जेक्ट्स भी पढ़ लेना जितना पढ़ सकते हो. कैन वी यूज पाइथन इन कैंपस प्लेसमेंट इंस्टेड ऑफ C++ जावा? पाइथन का इशू मैंने बताया. पाइथन का इशू ये है कि जो IDE जिस पे टेस्ट लिया जाता है कोडिंग का, TCS में ये हुआ था. TCS में काफ़ी सारे बच्चों के साथ ये इशू हुआ था कि TCS इज एन ऑफलाइन TCS ऑफ कैंपस प्रोसेस है. तो TCS में हम लोग उनके TCS के ऑफिस जाके हमने वहाँ पे टेस्ट दिया था. तो उनका जो IDE था, वो IDE थोड़ा ऐसा था कि उसमें पाइथन में जो इंडेंटेशन देनी होती है ना, वो इंडेंटेशन को ढंग से रिकग्नाइज नहीं कर रहा था. फॉर एग्जांपल तुमने अगर नॉर्मल स्पेस मारा वो उसको भी रिकग्नाइज नहीं कर रहा, तुमने टैब मारा रिकग्नाइज नहीं कर रहा, 3-4 स्पेस मारा तब भी वो रिकग्नाइज नहीं कर रहा था. बार बार पाइथन पे एरर दे रहा था. तो पाइथन का ये ड्रॉबैक है कि इंडेंटेशन की दिक्कत पड़ सकती है ऑनलाइन IDEs पे. तो इसी वजह से C++ से जावा क्योंकि उनमें ये इंडेंटेशन वाला इशू नहीं होता. Okay, next. How to prepare yourself for good projects? Consider as an example of ML. How to prepare yourself for good projects? प्रोजेक्ट्स के लिए तो तुम्हें क्या कहते हैं, इधर उधर ढूंढना पड़ेगा तुम्हें थोड़ा. क्या कहते हैं, मैं तो इस एक सवाल का जवाब ना अभिषेक पराशर दे सकते हैं, जो कि हमारे साथ इस कॉल पे है. अभिषेक पराशर को बाद में कांटेक्ट कर लेना. बंदा आरएस IEEE आरएस का चेयरपर्सन है. एमएल का उस्ताद, उससे पूछ लेना एमएल प्रोजेक्ट्स को कैसे अप्रोच करना है. ओके, नेक्स्ट. Is doing internship in startup company a good choice? I would say it would be a good choice. 2 रीजन है. अच्छा भी है, बुरा भी है. बुरा इसलिए और दोनों का आंसर सेम है. तुम्हें काम करने को काफी सारा काम करने को मिलेगा, और तुम्हें हर चीज तुम्हें स्क्रैच से सेटअप करना पड़ता है. स्क्रैच से सेटअप कर रहे हो तो स्टार्टअप में एक नया वर्कफ्लो बन रहा होता है एक स्टार्टअप में, तो वो सीखने को मिल जाता है तुम्हें. तो इस वजह से स्टार्टअप की दिक्कत ये होगी तुम्हारे लिए कि वर्कलोड बहुत ज्यादा हो सकता है, वर्कलोड तुम्हारे ऊपर. तो इसी वजह से वो एक बुरी चॉइस होगी. और दूसरी चीज कि वो एस्टैब्लिश ढंग से हुआ नहीं हुआ होता. कभी कभार होता है कि कंपनी शुरू तो कर दी, लेकिन अगले 1 या 2 साल के अंदर ही वो बंद भी होगी. तो क्या कहते हैं, एक स्टार्टअप कितना चलेगा वो हम कभी जज नहीं कर सकते. तो वो एक रिस्क फैक्टर लेके चलना पड़ेगा तुम्हें. Can you tell some tips in choosing final year projects? That depends on what branch you're from. और लेकिन what I would suggest is हर फाइनल ईयर प्रोजेक्ट के लिए तुम्हें एक टीचर अलॉट किया जाता है. हर एक ग्रुप को एक टीचर अलॉट किया जाता है. उस टीचर के साथ बैठ के तुम अगर डिस्कस करोगे कि उस टीचर को क्या आता है, और फिर वो टीचर्स तुम्हें नए नए एवेन्यूज बता सकते हैं कि तुम ये करो, तुम वो करो. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, कंप्यूटर साइंस स्टूडेंट्स हमेशा डेवलपमेंट पे बेस्ड प्रोजेक्ट्स बनाते हैं, बट टीचर्स कभी टीचर्स व्हाट दे आर एक्सपेक्टिंग इज कि तुम कुछ नया उठाओ, कुछ नया टॉपिक उठाओ. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, कंप्यूटर नेटवर्क्स एक ऐसा फील्ड है जिसपे पहले ऐसा हुआ करता था कि बच्चे भर के प्रोजेक्ट्स बनाते थे. अब कोई भी मेजर माइनर प्रोजेक्ट नहीं बनाता कंप्यूटर नेटवर्क्स पे. टीचर्स वांट स्टूडेंट्स टू वर्क ऑन दोस, क्योंकि वो एक ऐसा फील्ड है जहाँ पे रिसर्च थोड़ी कम हो रही है हमारे कॉलेज के साइड से. तो दे वांट टू एक्सपैंड इट मोर. तो तुम टीचर्स के साथ बैठ के डिस्कस करोगे फाइनल ईयर प्रोजेक्ट्स की कैसे बनाना है, क्या करना है. अगर तुम्हें थर्ड ईयर से भी करना है, थर्ड ईयर से कर सकते हो. तुम ऐसा कर सकते हो कि थर्ड ईयर में एक पर्टिकुलर टीचर को चूज कर लो कि हमें आपके अंडर ही काम करना है. तो जब मेंटर्स अलॉट हो रहे होते हैं, तो वो पर्टिकुलर टीचर बोलेगा कि ये पर्टिकुलर ग्रुप ऑफ स्टूडेंट्स मेरे अंडर डाल लो, मैं इनको गाइड कर लूंगा या कर लूंगी. वो खुद ही बोल देते हैं. तो तुम अभी से अगर तुम किसी टीचर से बैठ के डिस्कस करोगे कि क्या कैसे कर सकते हैं, तो दैट वुड बी अ गुड चॉइस. ओके, एंड
I think जो rest of the doubts हैं they can ask on the WhatsApp group. We'll be adding you on that, and
okay,
we'll also
yeah,
get feedback from them.
ठीक है. तो I'll answer rest of the questions on the group. वहाँ पे पूछ लेना जो सवाल है. मैं भी ग्रुप पे ऐड हो जाऊंगा, तो बाकी सारे सवालों के जवाब वहाँ दे देंगे. ऑनलाइन इंटर्नशिप्स आर इक्वल टू ऑफलाइन इंटर्नशिप्स. उसमें एज लॉन्ग एज यू आर गेटिंग गुड एक्सपोजर और वर्कफ्लो, जब तक तुम्हें समझ में आ रहा है, ऑनलाइन इंटर्नशिप्स में कोई वो प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. सो दैट लास्ट क्वेश्चन यहाँ पे हो गया. बाकी एक व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप है, आई थिंक सो, जो क्या कहते हैं, मैसेज सर्कुलेट हो तो उसके व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप का लिंक भी सर्कुलेट हुआ था. उस ग्रुप पे मैं अभी ऐड होने वाला. इस इवेंट के लिए एक अलग से ग्रुप बनाया गया था, तो मैं उस ग्रुप पे ऐड होने वाला हूँ. तो वहाँ पे बाकी डाउट्स क्लियर करेंगे.
Okay, so I'll be sharing the link in the chat right now for the WhatsApp group. You can join there, and then we can end this call. I will share that right away. So I shared the link in the chat. You can join the WhatsApp group using this link, and we'll be adding Brian Bhai on that, and you can answer, like you can ask your questions there. So I think we should like, is this a good time to end, Brian Bhai?
Yeah, sure. And I'll also, whatever I have said today, I'll share a Word document on the group too, ताकि जो कुछ भी मैंने बोला वो आप लोग वहाँ पे रेफर कर सको. So that's it. Okay, Shashwat, I think we can end it.
Okay, so thank you everyone for joining. Have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.